It is 12 o'clock local and recording in progress. It is 12 o'clock local for our international friends, 7 p.m. Zulu, 1900 Zulu hour. It is September 23rd, 2025. This is Brent Barlow, and I welcome you to Blue Light Daily, a discussion of topics, issues of relevance and importance, where we try to foster a discussion, educating each other, helping each other, growing, learning, and striving for a better day. So that's me. Today's word of the day is nonpareil. It's an adjective, that which has no equal, because it is better than any other. Nonpareil. Cool. So to start, this, whatever this is, this vlog, this podcast, this announcement to the world is still in development. Okay. I am actively soliciting your input. I want to thank those who've given me some very positive feedback. And I want everything you got. I want to provoke thought and discussion, dialogue. I had yesterday, one of my pledge brothers reached out and said he'd seen the broadcast. He didn't agree with everything I said, but he gave me a voice for putting it out there. I had another very kind friend comment that she appreciated the way that I presented issues objectively, and that's what I want to do. I want to present information without bias. I recognize that I have inherent biases, but I invite challenge. I never want to claim ownership of any position, moral or otherwise. And this is an us thing. I've said it before. I also, one of my things is constant self-improvement. So the invitation for challenge is authentic. I want to motivate, I am motivated to facilitate. To motivate action would be fabulous, but to facilitate some kind of positive change would be even more awesome. Today, we're going to be addressing a singular issue, and it is the current condition of the American landscape. We're not going to get too deep into any one thing. We're going to talk in very broad general terms, and I'm going to try to rip through this fairly quickly. I have done a deep dive across history, scholars, historians, political scientists, sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists, economists, about why war happens from prehistory to the present. And I've distilled it down to one crazy sentence. Wars occur when organized actors with the capacity for collective violence. I've said before, words are important. Violence, from the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, violence, both a noun and a verb. 1, the use of physical force so as to injure, abuse, damage, or destroy. B, an instance of violent treatment or procedure. 2, injury by or as by distortion, infringement, or profanation. Basically outrage, being so profane and yelling and screaming. 3, intense, turbulent, or furious, and often destructive action or force, the violence of a storm, for example. Vehement feelings or expressions, when you have a fever to do something. A clashing or jarring quality, discordance. Undue alteration, Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Violence. Wars occur when organized actors with the capacity for collective violence confront issues they cannot or believe they cannot resolve through bargaining, typically because private information, misperception, commitment problems, or claims deemed indivisible. We just can't see eye to eye because the issue divides us so. And under these structural conditions, the use of force coercion is attractive. Um, and there are incentives, identities, and narratives. But generally speaking, war is the sustained, organized, collective violence. My favorite source for dictionary definitions, dictionary.com, defines violence: swift and intense force, rough or injurious physical force, action, or treatment, an unjust or unwarranted exertion of force or power as against rights or laws, a violent act or proceeding, rough or immoderate vehemence, as in feelings or language. Again, that feeling of vehemence. Danger through distortion or unwarranted alteration, violence, or sustained, organized collective violence between political actors, usually distinguished from other violence by scale or political objectives. For example, what happened on January 6th at the Capitol wouldn't necessarily be considered war. Violence by scale, political objectives, perhaps. Um, there are conditions driving triggers, conditions, drivers, and triggers. Okay. Right now, we are currently facing urbanization, ethnic fractionalization, immigration issues, economic issues, uh, name it. There is an anarchy in the system. People are resorting to self-help. This kid who took out Charlie Kirk, for example, an arms race, not just weapons, but arming with violence, and the security dilemma. People feel unsafe. Defensive steps provoke counter steps. Security dilemma spirals. This gerrymandering thing that we just had with Trump demanding that he wanted 4 more votes, Gavin Newsom retorting with his position, and it becomes a clusterfuck. There are also political incentives. Leaders trade blood for political survival. The first thing they do when they get in office is they run for re-election. It's crazy. Stuff's going on. But what we have here right now, what's distinct, is bargaining failure, an unwillingness to bargain, fueled by information, commitment, and this indivisibility problem.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Of such strong nationalistic fervor and collapse of institutions, the absence of checks and balances, the various organs of government surrendering their constitutional responsibilities, can create these conditions. War is essentially the fundamental failure of bargaining under uncertainty and mistrust. Now, I don't know about you, but I came across this word, which was named Collins Dictionary Word of the Year 2020 or 2022, permacrisis, a state of permanent instability and uncertainty caused by a continuous succession of interrelated crises. It refers to a feeling of lurching from one catastrophe to another, such as a pandemic, wars, climate change, economic instability with no end in sight. The term highlights the interconnected and complex nature of these global challenges, which strains existing systems and requires a fundamental shift in how societies approach governance and long-term problem solving. Wars break out when groups think they can solve problems when they think they can't solve problems by talking, that they don't trust each other, and a sudden event pushes them into fighting. And I think that's what we have. The conditions right now include, I'm going to mention a book from 2018, a report from the Rand Corporation called Truth Decay, which defined truth decay as having 4 elements or 4 trends. 1, increasing disagreement about facts and analytical interpretation. 2, a blurring of the line between opinion and fact. 3, an increase in the relative volume of opinion versus fact. And 4, declining trust in formally respected sources of factual information. Now, I'm not going to point out everything that's in that statement, but I hope you're thinking about it. And if you've got questions, let's talk about it. But the drivers include of truth decay, cognitive biases. So I think I have prejudices, essentially. Changes in the information system, like we're facing right now with social media, platforms, and incentives. I'm sure I'm going to mention AI in a minute. Shortcomings in education and civic literacy and political social polarization. We have all those things. The consequences and erosion of civil discourse, political paralysis, alienation, distrust, uncertainty about policy. The
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
centric news diets. This is not from this report. This is something that I dug out from Pew Research Center. Platform-centric news diets. In 24-25, about 1/3 of US adults regularly got news on Facebook or YouTube. TikTok news use among its users has climbed, and 31% of Americans share news via social media, messaging, and emailing. A rise in alternative voices and AI. This is kind of scary in my book. The 2025 Reuters report highlights a platform-enabled alternative ecosystem. YouTubers like me, TikTokers, podcasters, and first-time use of AI chatbots as a news source, especially for younger audiences. While audiences expect AI will make news less trustworthy. That was from an executive summary of the ODG, which I don't have. All right. Declining trust in respected sources. This is, again, being exacerbated by politicians and civic leaders, community leaders, celebrities, everyone out in the public. No one is immune. And one of the things that I didn't say yesterday that I would have said to my pledge brother had he and I spoken is that what you didn't hear me say yesterday when I was mentioning some of the things that President Trump mentioned during the Charlie Kirk Memorial is I didn't say that those comments were at the exclusion of anyone else. No one is without fault. Everyone is contributing. It doesn't pay today for a politician to contribute in a meaningful way to bridge the gap. He gets paid by fanning the flames and creating discord. But with regard to the declining trust in respected sources, press freedom context. In 2025, press freedom context. Reporters Without Borders Index ranked the US as the 57th of 180 countries with the most tension between politics and the press. Moreover, an NAE report showed 8th grade civics scores declined in 2022 for the first time in the series. Only 22% at or above proficient, with widening gaps for lower performing students. Signals consistent with Rand's, quote, education as a driver thesis. This is all stuff I've been saying. And against this backdrop, this is the best part. Anybody remember the axis of evil? Bush 1 said Russia, China, and Iran were the axis of evil. Or yeah, North Korea was part of that too. I just focused on the three: Russia, China, and Iran. Russia, since 2016, documented cases 2019 through 14, been using AI, creating doppelganger programs, probing systems, all tech and online. The bottom line on Russia is their tactics are now being blended with AI, content generation, spoofing local media, influencer seeding, and laundering narratives. Continuity of continuity with the 2016 tradecraft modernized for platform defenses. The enforcement of the DOJ, Treasury, and other platforms is increasingly proactive, but the aim of Russia is still narrative coercion more than technical election tampering. They want to get inside your kitchen rent free and make some eggs, baby. Ridiculous. China, spamiflage, Dragon Bridge, illegal police station, Operation Fox Hunt, PRC's 912 project, special project working group was charged with running troll farm style ops against dissidents and to shape U.S. perceptions. Criminally documented. That's from the AP News. Overt state media influence. The State Department, we know what they're doing. But they're doing it in the U.S., underscoring their role as government organs, even when operating in the U.S. media. So they're all over us. Bottom line on China, within the US, the effects have been more diffuse than Russia's, but they're steadily professionalizing with AI. Isn't that nice? Iran, sending out intimidation emails, spoofing Proud Boys, promoting hacks and leaks, spear phishing, online disinformation. Endless Mayfly Project, Citizen Lab, an Iran-aligned network that spoofed major news outlets, published fabricated stories, and deleted redirected content after seeding. Innovation, ephemeral disinformation. Wow. Bottom line on Iran blends low-cost, high-noise online ops, spoofs, clone sites, persona farms, with occasional threat intimidation tactics. Effects are often short-lived but opportunistic, exploiting domestic U.S. controversies to depress trust. This is just my research, and I'll provide it all to anyone and everyone. The long and the short of it is this. I've seen a problem. I'm taking some action. I'm inviting others to join me. Okay. Whether we're in a perma crisis or not, whether we are doing nothing to pull ourselves out of this nosedive, and just fanning the flames at every turn, I have a proposal and I need help. So what we envision is to operate as a non-extractive, we don't take, network native love protocol, if you want, a set of tools, norms, and incentives that increase coherence, participation, and reciprocity across creative, civil, and economic work. It isn't sentimental, although it may sound. It's systems engineering for human flourishing. That's my thing. I want us to use AI. I don't want to get into it, but what we've built is a design for interdependence and feedback with participation rights, visible flows, fast learning loops, not for static ownership alone. Contribution first, entitlement last. We encode no extraction via licensing, revenue share defaults, and governance that privileges service to the whole over private gatekeeping. We protect against cause capture. We bake in, rotation, dissident protocols, and anti-culture patterns so the mission doesn't consume the human. 4, we make participation signal, adjustment, a native loop in every product: creation, funding, curation, governance, participation, signal, adjustment. What we're trying to build into everything is participation rights by default. Everyone can signal in Fritjof Capra's ethics. He points a shifting from hierarchies to networks with distributed agency. Fritjof Capra, I'll get to him more later. Our design principles include no extraction economies, the Gita style action. Royalties and splits flow to contributors. Treasury rules privilege the common over rent. The commons is our place where we make it happen. More on that later. 3, our principles include feedback-rich surfaces. Every object, works, grants, briefs, carries a state, a history, and an open feedback channel. Think governable documents. 4, anti-ideolory governance. No idols. Sunset clauses, role rotation. This is a community. Transparent dissident and red team rituals, so we don't worship our own artifacts. If I was given the exercise at school to, you're the king of the kingdom and you get to do whatever you want, I'd first surround myself with the wisest people in the kingdom, and then I would decide what the best system was to have. That's basically what I did. I went back to elementary school, junior high, high school, and I gave myself that test, and this is what's come out. Alignment over unanimity. Non-attachment makes it safe to ship. I decide, I measure, I iterate without clinging. It is an us thing. What makes it concrete and buildable? Self-governed, self-sovereign identity and reputation. Provenance and programmable splits. Community funding for public good. Participatory governance. Consentful data collaboratives, and portable programmable values. Look, creators keep custody, communities see lineage, everyone who helps gets paid automatically. Commons work is no longer unpaid. It's funded as infrastructure. Governance is legible and corrigible, easy to audit, easy to improve because the network itself is the record. There's no single authority. We keep tokens as tools, not gods. We keep actions oriented to service, not attachment. And what I didn't mention is the interlacing of tokenization and Bitcoin technology throughout all that we're doing to, for those who don't know, essentially a public ledger so that everyone can see exactly what transactions have occurred with regard to a specific artifact, I'll call it, whatever digital asset might exist. So there's a lot more coming on that. But I said all this to tell you that where we are today as a people, whether you look at yourself as a Californian, an American, a Westerner, a human, there is a lot going on and there's a lot of effort required. And this is just my little attempt in 30 minutes to give you some information. The information I gave you today can be synthesized thusly. You are part of a system. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. If you do nothing, you are subject to the whims of those who subjugate you for their own benefit. We share more in common than what differentiates us. Common problems require common solutions. I am certainly not the smartest, but gosh darn it, If we come together, our collective wisdom is greater than any one person's power. I don't want to play victim. I want to play cheerleader. I want to be the guy who is yelling so loud that they can hear me 3 fields away. I want my girls to know that they are loved, that I trust them, and that I appreciate their effort. All that I ever ask for is attitude and effort. I've got the attitude, I'm putting in the effort, and if you feel any of this resonates, any of this is something that provokes you to want to find out more, please, I invite you. You're always going to get me, unabashed, unapologetic, and authentic. Whether this went out properly or not, I can't say, but it's been 30 minutes. It's been a good run. The second book that I did reference, but I didn't call out exactly, is called uh, Warfare in the Links. So thanks for watching. Again, God bless, be well, peace out.